Today on the High Republic Show, we're talking with all the High Republic authors about what's to come for the future of the series, plus we'll learn more about the Wayseekers than you ever thought possible, take a deeper dive into the Jedi Council of the High Republic, reveal some never-before-seen exclusives, and so much more. Just like Loden Greatstorm, the High Republic Show returns when you least expect it. Kyle, hit me with that animated open.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice.
Hello out there to all of my High Republic internet friends. I'm Justina Ireland, and we have a lot to cover today. Since we last met, not one, not two, but 3 new High Republic books were released, as well as more comics. And while we usually deal in spoilers here, this time around we're going to avoid any for Justina Ireland's Out of the Shadows, just to give y'all a little more time to read it since it's been out literally hours at this point. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to talk about every little detail for everything else that was released since we last talked. In fact, let's jump right into it, shall we? I do my own stunts! As Avar battles the Drengir alongside the Hutt, Sskeer is still in a state of stasis on the Starlight Beacon being watched over by Keeve Trennis. Suddenly, the Drengir take over his body and attack Keeve. Connected by the Force, the two are able to discover where the great progenitor and root of the Drengir is hiding. During this Force connection, Sskeer breaks his bond with the Drengir by literally ripping his own arm off, and Keeve figures out where the progenitor is hiding. Luckily, she scratched the name Lolita onto her bracer before the bond was broken so she would remember. So like needless to say, it's been a crazy time in the High Republic. And what better way to relax and celebrate a job sort of well done than with the Republic Fair? That's right, it's Republic Fair time on Valo. And Supreme Chancellor Lina So is pulling out all the stops: Jedi, dignitaries, a petting zoo. It's all here and nothing could possibly go wrong. If it wasn't Star Wars? The first day of the fair goes off without any major problems. However, young Padawan Ram Jamaram noticed a group of Nihil fleeing from the main hub of interplanetary communication for Valo, Crash Point Tower. Ram fixes the tower, or so he thinks, and sneaks off to the fair where the Jedi are. Being a plucky Padawan, Ram bypasses the front gates and sneaks in, which gets him caught by Valo security and promptly thrown in jail before he can warn the Jedi. Meanwhile, the Nihil have begun a bit of infighting, with the Tempest runner Pan Ada revealing that Marchion Ro doesn't actually get the hyperspace pass himself, but from an old woman he keeps alive. Not to be outdone, however, Marchion Ro counters this act of insurrection by secretly recovering a mysterious weapon known as the Leveler, and giving the Nihil permission to attack the Republic Fair. Cool. Back on Valo, former Padawan turned Saber for Hire Ty Yorick is en route to the fair with her clients Claren and Mantessa Shakat to show off their new inventions to Senator Tia Toon. Only problem is it's filled with the illegal substance Racanium. That, and having Ty Yorick draw her lightsaber as part of the demonstration doesn't sit well with the Senator or the Jedi, prompting STELLAN GIOS, Elzar Mann, and Bel Zettifar to bust through the window. Amidst the scuffle, Mantessa turns on her new invention, which coincidentally prevents lightsabers from powering on. Needless to say, the Jedi subdue Ty and Mantessa and send them to jail. Suddenly, the Nihil attack the Republic Fair. STELLAN GIOS is busy protecting Chancellor So. Bel Zettifar saves the Chancellor's son from a sinking ship, and Elzar Mann taps into a bit of the dark side to help him fight alongside Ty Yorick, who happened to escape imprisonment thanks to the Padawan in the cell next door, Ram Jamaram. Don't you love it when books overlap stories like that? After escaping jail, Ram and Jedi Lula Talisola battle Nihil in the sky and on the ground on their way to Crash Point Tower, but discover the Nihil have planted it with Drengir. Together, the two turn the Drengir against the Nihil and fully restore communications throughout Valo, allowing an SOS signal to get off planet. On the Nihil ship, the Gaze Electric, the Nihil are celebrating their attack when it's revealed that not only is Bel Zettifar's master Loden Greatstorm on the ship, but he's also alive! Hooray! Nothing bad will ever happen to Loden Greatstorm. Thanks to a connection with Mari Santeca, Loden battles his way through the ship, encountering Marchion Ro brandishing Loden's own saber against him. Loden calls out to Bel using the Force as he comes to the aid of his master, barely escaping the Gaze Electric. Furious, Marchion Ro unleashes his newest weapon, the Leveler, causing horrific visions to overcome Elzar Mann and Bel Zettifar. But the damage of the Leveler is even worse for Loden Greatstorm. He's been calcified into a stone-like husk that disintegrates at the slightest touch, causing STELLAN GIOS to feel fear for the first time in decades. And once again, the High Republic crushes my dreams of a happy ending for Loden Greatstorm.
I am Nick Martorelli. I'm an executive producer at Penguin Random House Audio. Tempest Runner is the story of Lorna D after she and her crew have been attacked and defeated, and this is the story about her being captured by the Republic and trying to work her friendships, work her factions, and bring her crew back. I have always thought of these audiobook originals as celebrations of the audiobook roster we have. We work with so many great readers and narrators. Mark Thompson, we have Jonathan Davis, Jessica Almazy, January Lavoie, these people who have been reading Star Wars audiobooks, and we want to get them involved in an audiobook original. These actors get to create these characters for the first time. There is nothing that they need to match. There is nothing that they need to follow. They get to sort of look at these people in the script and bring them to life fully. One of the things I really like about this script is sort of how it examines Lorna and how it looks at what a Tempest runner's relationship with herself, with her friends, is really interesting. What I hope fans take away from this is a real understanding of the work that Cavan Scott did to sort of mine what this relationship of one of these people would be like. What kind of person becomes a Tempest runner, and what happens when they're confronted with the world outside of them. When they see that there are other things in the galaxy besides the Nihil, what challenges does that make to a person?
The High Republic represented an era of relative freedom for the Jedi Order, and that spirit of independence was best characterized by Wayseekers. Wayseekers are Jedi that only follow the calling of the Force, free from the Jedi Council's direction, fulfilling whatever purpose the Force guides them to. Taking full advantage of the prosperity of peacetime, these Wayseeker Jedi have followed the Force to mountaintop meditation, aided war-torn worlds, and in one legendary instance, became a minor singing sensation on Alderaan. Wayseeker Orla Jarini has followed the Force into the frontier, where she and fellow travelers encounter a wicked space station infested with the presence of the dark side. Is this what the Force had been calling her to do? For Orla, her journey as a Wayseeker has only just begun.
So as many of you know by now, last week I hosted the San Diego Comic-Con panel for the High Republic, where we revealed a ton of upcoming books in this exciting series. But what you didn't see was a conversation I had with the authors afterwards, about what it's been like working on this and what we can look forward to in the future. Check it out. Hello, High Republic family. We're doing things a little bit different with our roundtable today. Today we're going to be joined by all of our authors, Cavan Scott, Justina Ireland, Charles Soule, Daniel José Older, and Claudia Gray, to discuss the characters of the High Republic, why they do what they do, who we should look out for, what's coming up soon, and so much more. Welcome, y'all. I have a question. Is there a particular character or event from Phase 1 that we should revisit?
Well, I know that one character that I introduced in Into the Dark that I didn't think was going to be around as much in the future, that I was very, very wrong about, would be Nan. And I would also say to keep an eye out on Affy. We meet her as a young character in Into the Dark who is primarily sort of, her biggest concern is this huge thing that is going on with her mom's sort of corrupt shipping guild. But she's emerging more and more, not only as an independent character and a player in her own way, but she's picking up both allies and enemies in unexpected quarters.
I'll jump onto that because I had the pleasure of writing the crew of the vessel in the IDW series, and it's so much fun. I think that's one of the coolest parts about this whole thing, is that these characters are all just in the mix. And reading Into the Dark, you know, my head was already like spinning with all the cool things that could happen with all these cool characters. They're so exciting. And it was great because then I got to bring in Geode and Leox and everybody and have them hang out with Quart and Farzala and everybody else and some Hutts. And it's so much fun. So with that, you know, process-wise, basically the first thing I did was send the draft to Claudia and say, like, does this, you know, match? Does this feel true? And when she said yes, I was like, okay. All right, I did something right. I wrote Geode right. Woo! Mission accomplished. But that's really exciting. So that, and for my part, I would say actually a location. They stopped by a place called Vrant Tarnum in the 5th issue of IDW High Republic Adventures. And that turns out to be an important place in the larger mythology of what we're working with, which is really exciting. It pops up in places you wouldn't expect, I would say. But also Quart and Farzala, keep an eye on them. There's a lot going on with them, and we get to see them grow and change as the series goes on.
Charles, who are you keeping an eye on?
Mark Inro, obviously, and that's not just because I'm writing a story about him soon. There's a scene set with the Jedi Council in Light of the Jedi. It's just like an interstitial chapter. I'd take a look at that. I think there's some interesting things that are said there. And then there's a bunch of moments in some of the stories where Markian or the Nile talk about hints at their past. And I think a lot of those elements are interesting, and we didn't do those for no reason, and those might be worth taking a look at.
Cavan.
Han and Lorna been exciting to develop over the Rising Storm and Tempest Runner, and perhaps we get to revisit some of the characters that didn't make it out of Light of the Jedi.
We have a Santeca coming into focus very soon in your next book, Justina. Is that something that people should pay close attention to?
It's all spoilers. Like, I see what you're trying to do, but it's all spoilers. So yes, if it seems like it's important, it's important. And even when it doesn't seem like it's important, it might be important. That's the fun thing about shared storytelling. A breadcrumb in Daniel's story or in Cav's story can end up being so much more in another story. So I think it's probably a good idea, if you haven't picked up the earlier books, to do that. Even if you're like, I don't want to read a kid's comic or a kid's book, it's like a lot of those characters are going to show up in other places, and they're also like laying the groundwork for things that are going to happen. So yes, it's all important.
You're only hurting yourself if that's how you approach books. Like, honestly, there's just so much good stuff in the literature for young people in general, especially in this initiative. All of those stories, whether they're middle grade, young adult, I can say personally in the all ages comics, they all hit on major important plot points and characters that tie into other things in the larger story. And that's what's so cool about it. So much of writing and so much of this process, especially because it's collaborative, is this mix of, being very intentional about planning stuff out and having this long game of understanding the different beats and the things happening way in the future. And then there's also room in there, just like with any process of writing a book, to be surprised. And I know all of us at different moments have surprised ourselves, surprised each other. I've found, Easter eggs that I put in for myself that I didn't realize until later were actually Easter eggs. And that's the joy of it. But there's also so much meticulousness and structure at play here.
I will say it actually ties into what you just said. Have any of you had that big moment where a character who might not have been your focus, you see them do something that makes you go, oh, they're so important?
In an unspoilery way, I can say that I was really thrilled seeing what happens with Reef and Comac and Justina's book, and seeing how Daniel handled Leox and Affy and Geode with the vessel. It's always awesome just to see that connection and that through point, and to see that, like, oh, okay, they actually came across. I mean, that's how you actually were able to build the character in the way that you wanted to and meant to. When you see that, like, right, yes, their personality is coming through, and now the character can kind of go on without you in the best sense.
I found that in a different way, working with Harvey Tolibao, the artist for High Republic Adventures. He's such a thoughtful and imaginative creator, and he really brought new levels of depth and dynamics to the characters that I didn't even realize until I saw the way that they played out on the page. And that's really the magic of his art, is that, he can do that, and I'll be like, oh, Court is like that. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's how the characters develop, is through that collaborative process. And that's been so cool to see. So watching them come to life and then building their backstories as we go and understanding different details and nuances of them has just been a really amazing process.
And I think there's something about flashing forward as well. So we've been planning these characters, and we've all had our own sort of characters as well throughout that we've been pushing through. And then when we've been having conversations and chatting, there's been a moment for me and Daniel when we've been discussing the characters from the Marvel and the IDW, and we realised they're on the same trajectory in ways that you won't necessarily know are coming. As we're planning their story throughout all the different phases, we realise that actually that's where they're heading. And I think that's one of the best moments of this entire initiative, has been those moments when you realise that without knowing you're planning ahead as well. We've got the idea of where we're going. We are being able to have creativity at how we're going to get there. And then we realise that the answers are in the other stories. And that's been very exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what everybody else has said, it's been really fun to see characters that appeared, say, in Light of the Jedi, and how the other authors are using them and developing them in really interesting ways. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but like Joss and Pika Adren, for example, I know that they get used in a story later, and it's very gratifying because they're not flashy, right? They're kind of ordinary folks, and I think ordinary folks are really important to Star Wars, and to see that they resonated with another author in a way that made them want to use them made me really happy. And obviously seeing all the Jedi and stuff come to life in the comics has been really, really fun too, the stuff that Daniel and Cav have been doing. And there's just something about being part of a shared storytelling initiative that is really unique and special, because we all made this together, and seeing how it grows, seeing how our garden grows, I've never experienced anything else like it. It's really unique.
Now, which has been the easiest or the most difficult to write for you?
For me, the easiest are Cavan Scott, because their stories just come so naturally, and they're the ones who've shown me what the High Republic should be for me.
But who's been most difficult for you?
I mean, I can say most difficult for me were Reef and Comac, just because they did come out of Claudia's storytelling. And so I wanted to do those characters justice. I think when you're including the characters that another creator has created, you really want to make sure that you do them, give them the sensitivity and the justice, and you don't necessarily come in and all of a sudden like, Reese on the spies, oh no, it's a very different kind of YA book. I really wanted to make sure that when I was writing those characters, like I wrote them in a way that Claudia found, like, yeah, that's totally how they would grow and change, and that's totally how I would, those are definitely the conversation I would expect them to have. So that for me was like the most, I think the hardest. I think the easiest characters, of course, are the characters like I've created, like Vernestra or Imri, because I know them. They came out of my brain meats, so I can like, yeah, this is totally what they would say. Like when you're parenting your own children, you're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with you just have ice cream for dinner. No one's going to yell at you. But if you do that with somebody else's kids, now you're a bad person. So you just want to make sure that you don't do that.
It's almost an exercise in empathy to understand each other's characters and where you are.
Yeah, I second that. Writing Vernestra, writing the crew of the vessel, that was definitely the most challenging part. Also, Yoda has its challenges. It's in part in that we know Yoda, we all have this very clear idea of who Yoda and 900 is, but this is a younger Yoda, this is a different Yoda, and he makes different choices. And so kind of honoring that, but also making sure that it feels different. That was very challenging. That was really interesting, but it was exciting. It's been really exciting and thrilling, obviously, because Yoda is Yoda.
Daniel, I have a very serious follow-up question to that. What is the cookie recipe?
I'm actually going to pass that to Claudia, who is an excellent baker.
That's the forthcoming the cookbook of the High Republic, where you'll get to find all the recipes that we're talking about.
That's phase 2, right there.
Justina is the more accomplished baker of the group, but I live closer to Daniel, and so he actually gets my baked goods periodically.
Claudia made me an amazing birthday cake, and, I'm not saying that that's why Buckets of Blood and Yoda trade recipes, but that is certainly part of it. And Buckets of Blood has really taken on baking duties at the Starlight, which is important. Someone has to, right? And he continues to give unsolicited baking advice to Kantam Sak. We all know someone like that.
Well, he could have taken up gardening and taken on the Drengir.
That's what they need, just some pruning shears, and they can wrap that up.
Now, Charles, who would you say was the most difficult to write?
I would say 2 characters, right? On the good side, I would say Elzar Mann, because he has to be calibrated in just the right way. Like, he's sort of a wild card, he does his own thing. He wants to go and experience the Force in his own way. So it was very tricky to calibrate him in exactly the right way, but it was fun. And then on the bad guy side, I'd say Markian Rowe, just because he needed to stand alongside Vader and Palpatine and Maul and Kylo Ren and all the other great evil people that we've seen in Star Wars over the years, but he needed to be his own person too, and he needed to be evil in his own way, if that doesn't sound too dumb. So trying to figure out a way to make him complicated and kind of relatable and sad, but also horrible at the same time was a big trick for him. As far as the characters that were like fun and easy to write, I would say Kassav. And then on the good side, I'd say Avar Kriss, because, she experiences the Force through music and is one of her big salient characteristics, and I'm a big music person myself. So being able to kind of inject my music side into a Star Wars character felt very natural and very fun.
Are there any particular characters that we should be on the lookout for in this next wave of the High Republic? I'll start with you, Daniel.
Ooh, there's a couple. So Master Obratuk, this is the legendary napper. That is Farzala's master. He's a Parwan, which we met some Parwans in the Clone Wars series. There was a bounty hunter, famously. Super weird tentacle guys. And so it's really cool to introduce him. In fact, on Takodana, we also meet a really amazing Jedi who I won't say too much about, but her name is Sav Malagan, and she's one of the baddest characters I've ever written, and I mean bad in the good way. So I'm really excited for people to meet her. She's also like 100 and something. She's quite old. But single-handedly unstoppable. And then finally, I'll say, look out for a character named Crash, who we will be hearing lots more from.
Justina.
I mean, I don't know anymore, man. I'm trying to who could I talk about without blowing up storytelling? Avon Starros. Avon Starros. We get to actually meet Avon's mother, Gira, in Out of the Shadows. So there's some things that are going to happen there. So yeah, Avon and the Starros clan, because you can never have too many Starros in a room.
I love it, because next time we ask you a question, I'm just going to say, put up a panel that says, bleep. Justina could not be reached at this moment because spoilers were...
Just gonna be like me talking and muted, and then just like, this is all full of spoilers. We cannot actually show what we said.
Yes, just have all of us mouth and gesticulate wildly for a few minutes. We can do that.
And with the way these stories have been going, I would believe all of it and also speculate quite a bit. I'm going to thank you all again for your time. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your new books, your previous books, and all the amazing art that you all are putting out into the world. You're much appreciated. Earlier in the episode, you may have noticed we slipped a little silhouette of the Jedi Council during the High Republic in the Wayseeker segment. Well, I'm very excited to announce that you're about to discover a whole lot more about who's in the Jedi Council in the High Republic. Watch.
The Jedi Council has long been home to the most noble and wise Jedi, and those who sit on the Council during the High Republic era are the personification of knowledge and strength. The Council Chamber itself is a place where open thought and speech can flow freely, and it is the members' trust in one another that allows them to work together freely from the constraints of jealousy and ego. If selected to be a part of the Jedi Council, a member can serve for life, or until they choose to step down. The Jedi Council membership is always changing. These are the masters we've seen so far that are part of the Council during the High Republic era. Beginning with Grand Master Yoda, he proves that even in his 6th century of life, he's still as spry as ever, spending most of his time teaching the next generation of Jedi. Joining him on the Council is the wise Anks, Grandmaster LaRue, as well as the bearded Tarnab, PRA-TRE. The diverse collection of Council members also include human Jedi Masters such as Keaton Murag, Adalai Karau, and Terry Rosason. The snake-like Thespiasian, OPPO RANCISIS, is one of the older members on the Council. Also seated are the Yarkora Jedi Master Adampo, the male Quirmian Yariel Poof, and Jedi Master Rana Kent, who has been replaced by STELLAN GIOS. Rounding out the High Republic's Jedi Council is Nautolan Jedi Soule Agra, and the Togruta female Jedi Master Jorah Mali, whose deciding vote allowed the Jedi to join the Republic Defense Coalition to hunt down the Nihil. Following her death, she was replaced on the Council by Raiki Saka. With such a diverse group of Jedi on the Council, it's no wonder the Jedi were at the height of their power during the High Republic era. If you want to learn more about your favorite Jedi Council member, make sure to check out StarWars.com.
If you're like me, you've got a lot more questions about the High Republic after the latest rounds of stories have come out. Luckily, through the magic and the power of the internet, I can summon our great friend Robert Simpson from Lucasfilm Publishing to answer the burning queries you sent us using the hashtag THRSQuestions to get some THRS answers. So without further ado, here's Rob to help. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Krystina.
Now, Jean-Charles asked, how did the Drengir get to Cedric Minor? I thought they all died on the Maxine station at the end of Into the Dark.
I can see how you might think that. Actually, part of the Drengir's spread across the galaxy was that they were seeded onto several different worlds and lay dormant under the ground. When the Great Progenitor awoke and that root-mind telepathic link was reestablished across the stars, it awoke all of those sleeping seeded pods and they started to sprout. So actually there are several pockets of Drengir scattered across many different planets.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. As always, it was a delight to chat with you from the comfort of your own home and the comfort of my spacious garage. And if you have a question you want answered about the High Republic, send it to us online using the hashtag THRSQuestions, and we might just answer yours here during our next episode in September. And now it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for exclusive reveals! Yeah. Thank you, crowd. Appreciate you for being here. There's nobody here. Now, earlier in the episode, you got your first look at the members of the Jedi Council during the High Republic era. Well, we have another look at a character poster that's not on the Jedi Council, but is still cool nonetheless. I'm talking about your favorite High Republic chef and Blade of Bardata, Porter Ingle. Look at this giant of a jolly Jedi with his cute little braided beard and his eye patch. And in less jolly Jedi news, we've got your first look at a page from Marvel's High Republic #7, which features Avar Kriss as a skeleton wrapped in Drangir tendrils. Real cute, Cavan. And speaking of Marvel, we also have your first look at the variant cover for the High Republic #9 by artist Lionel Franciscu, featuring my favorite Wayseeker Orla Jareni looking stoic as ever. Marvel's High Republic #7 hits store shelves today with issue #9 releasing in September. Also in comics, we have your first look at Harvey Tully Bow's cover for IDW's High Republic Adventures #8, which features Yoda, Zine, and the Padawan heroes of the Starhopper. Additionally, we have your first look at the inside of IDW's Monster of Temple Peak, featuring Saber for Hire Ty York doing what she does best, hunting monsters. IDW's High Republic Adventures #8 hits shelves this September, but if you can't wait, you can pick up the Monster of Temple Peak by Cavan Scott and Rachel Stott this August. If you've been hankering for more looks at the Viz manga Edge of Balance, you're in luck! Get ready to travel to the planet Banshee with Jedi Knight Lily THRSQUESTIONS. There, Lily, Master Arkoff, and their Padawans living their lives at a remote Jedi temple trying to help people who've been displaced from the Great Disaster. But they must also be dealing with a surprise Drangir attack. Seriously, nowhere is safe from these petulant plants. The Edge of Balance by Shima Shinya and Justina Ireland with art by Mizuki Sakakibara is on sale this September. Finally, if you're like me and have little ones around the house and want to share with them the magic and excitement of the Republic Fair during its attack from the Nile, then pick up George Mann's Showdown at the Fair on October 5th, because if there's one thing kids love, it's Buryaga and a petting zoo getting blown to smithereens. Fun for the whole family. And so ends another bi-monthly internet adventure within the High Republic. I hope you had as much fun as I did. As always, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.